Lesson 9. Revolution Factions. The different factions of the Revolution. During the French Revolution, there were several different factions or groups with varying political ideologies and goals. These factions often clashed and competed for power and influence. Here are some of the main factions of the French Revolution. The Jacobins. The Jacobins were a radical political club that emerged during the Revolution. They were led by figures such as Maximilien Robespierre and Georges Danton. The Jacobins advocated for a centralised republic, universal suffrage and social equality. They were known for their radicalism and their role in the Reign of Terror. The Girondins. The Girondins were a moderate political group that represented the interests of the bourgeoisie and the provinces. They favoured a constitutional monarchy and a decentralised government. The Girondins were initially influential in the National Convention, but eventually overthrown by the more radical Jacobins. The Montagnards. The Montagnards, also known as Mountain, were a political group within the Jacobin faction. They were more radical than the Girondins and advocated for the abolition of the monarchy and establishment of the republic. The Montagnards were influential during the Reign of Terror and played a key role in the execution of King Louis XVI. The Royalists. The Royalists were supporters of the monarchy and opposed the revolutionary changes. They sought to restore power and authority of the king and the aristocracy. The Royalists were a diverse group ranging from moderate constitutional monarchists to more extreme counter-revolutionaries. The Sans-Culottes. The Sans-Culottes were a radical group made up of urban workers and artisans. They were known for their distinctive clothing, which lacked the knee breeches worn by upper classes. The Sans-Culottes played a significant role in popular uprisings and protests during the Revolution and were often aligned with more radical factions. These factions were not static, and alliances and allegiances often shifted throughout the course of the Revolution. The struggle for power and the clash of ideologies among these factions ultimately shaped the course and outcome of the French Revolution. Revolutionist goals. What the revolutionists wanted. The revolutionists in the French Revolution had a range of goals and demands. Each evolved over the course of the Revolution. Some of the main objectives and ideals of the revolutionists included overthrow of the monarchy. The revolutionists sought to abolish the absolute monarchy and establish a new form of government. They aimed to replace the role of the king with a system that represented the will of the people. Establishment of a republic. Many revolutionists advocated for establishment of the republic, where power would be held by elected representatives of the people. They aimed to create a government that was accountable to the citizens and based on democratic principles. Equality and social justice. The revolutionists aimed to dismantle the social and economic inequalities of the old regime. They sought to abolish the feudal privileges, aristocratic titles and other forms of social hierarchy. They advocated for equal rights and opportunities for all citizens, regardless of their social status or background. Individual liberties and rights. The revolutionists sought to establish individual freedoms and civil liberties. They aimed to protect the rights of citizens, such as freedom of speech, religion and assembly. They also sought to ensure due process and equality before the law. Popular sovereignty. The revolutionists emphasised the importance of popular sovereignty, meaning that the power and authority of the government should derive from the people. They aimed to establish a system where the citizens had a voice in decision making and could participate in political process. Economic reform. the revolutionists sought to address the economic hardships faced by the majority of the population. They aimed to introduce measures to alleviate poverty, improve working conditions, and ensure a fair distribution of resources. It's important to note that the goals and demands of the revolutionists were not uniform, and there were different factions and groups with varying ideologies and priorities. The revolution was a complex and multifaceted movement, with different individuals and groups advocating for different visions of change. The Legislative Assembly. The Legislative Assembly was a legislative body established during the French Revolution. It replaced the National Assembly and existed from October 1st, 1791 to September 20th, 1792. The Legislative Assembly marked a significant shift in the Revolution as it represented a more radical and republican phase. The Legislative Assembly was composed of representatives elected by French citizens. It consisted of 745 members known as deputies, who were divided into three groups: the Feuillants, the Girondins, and the Jacobins. The Legislative Assembly faced numerous challenges during its brief existence. France was still grappling with economic and social issues, and tensions were rising both domestically and internationally. The revolutionaries faced opposition from counter-revolutionary forces within France and from foreign powers who feared the spread of revolutionary ideas. The Legislative Assembly passed several significant laws and reforms during its tenure. It continued the work of the National Assembly in dismantling the old regime and implementing more egalitarian policies. It abolished feudal privileges, introduced a system of civil marriage and divorce, and implemented measures to secularize the state. However, the Legislative Assembly was also marked by political divisions and conflicts. The Feuillants, Girondins, and Jacobins often clashed over the direction of the revolution and the role of the monarchy. These divisions, along with the growing social unrest and economic instability, contributed to the downfall of the Legislative Assembly. On August 10, 1792, a mob stormed the Tuileries Palace in Paris, where King Louis XVI and his family were residing. The king was suspended from his powers, and the monarchy was effectively abolished. This event marked the end of the Legislative Assembly and the beginning of the National Convention, a new revolutionary government. The Feuillants. The Feuillants were a political group during the French Revolution who emerged in 1791. They took their name from the former monastery of the Feuillants in Paris, where they held their meetings. The group consisted of moderate constitutional monarchists who supported the new constitutional monarchy established after the fall of the absolute monarchy in 1789. The Feuillants believed in a limited monarchy with a constitution that protected individual rights and property. They sought to maintain a balance of power between the king and the Legislative Assembly, advocating for a strong executive branch. The Feuillants were initially part of the Jacobin Club, a radical political club that played a significant role in the early stages of the revolution. However, the Feuillants split from the Jacobins in 1791 due to ideological differences. The Feuillants believed that the revolution had gone too far and sought to restore stability and order. The Feuillants were staunch supporters of King Louis XVI and sought to protect his powers within the constitutional framework. They opposed the radical factions of the revolution, such as the Montagnards and the Girondins, who advocated for the complete abolition of the monarchy. The Feuillant influence waned over time as the revolution became more radical. They were seen as too moderate and compromising by both the royalists and the radical factions. The group disbanded in 1792, and many of its members were later arrested and executed during the Reign of Terror. The Girondins. The Girondins were known for their radical republican views and their support for the establishment of a democratic republic in France. They represented the interests of the provinces and advocated for decentralisation of power, giving more autonomy to local governments. The Girondins were composed of mostly middle-class professionals, such as lawyers, journalists and intellectuals. They were well educated and well spoken, and many of their leaders were skilled orators. The Girondins were critical of the monarchy and sought to limit the powers of the king. They believed almost fanatically that the principles of liberty, equality and fraternity, and called for abolition of feudal privileges and the establishment of a more egalitarian society. The Girondins were also known for their support of the French Revolution's foreign policy. They believed in spreading the revolutionary ideals to other countries and saw themselves as a vanguard of global republican movement. They advocated for war against foreign powers, particularly Austria and Prussia, and were seen as threats to the revolution. However, the Girondins faced opposition from other factions within the revolution. They clashed with the more moderate Feuillants, who supported a constitutional monarchy, and the more radical Jacobins, who called for the complete abolition of the monarchy. The Girondins' influence reached its peak during the early stages of the French Revolution. Many of the leaders held prominent positions in the Legislative Assembly. However, the Girondins' power came to wane as the revolution became more radical. They were seen as too moderate by the Jacobins, who accused them of being too sympathetic to the monarchy and the aristocracy. The Jacobins, led by Maximilien Robespierre, gained influence and eventually overthrew the Girondins. In June 1793, the Girondins were purged from the National Convention, the revolutionary government that replaced the Legislative Assembly. Many Girondin leaders were arrested and several were executed. The Girondins' legacy is complex. They were advocates of republican ideals and played a significant role in the early stages of the French Revolution. However, their inability to maintain power and their ultimate downfall at the hands of the more radical Jacobins have led to mixed views of their legacy. Some view the Girondins as courageous defenders of liberty and democracy, while others criticise them for their inability to effectively govern and their perceived moderation. Regardless of one's perspective, the Girondins were an influential faction during the French Revolution and played a crucial role in shaping its trajectory. The Jacobin Club. The Jacobin Club was a political club during the French Revolution. It was one of the most influential and radical factions of the Revolution and played a significant role in shaping its course. The club was named for the former convent of the Dominicans, known as the Jacobins, where its meetings were held. The Jacobin Club was founded in 1789 during the early stages of the Revolution. It initially served as a forum for discussion and debate among members of the Third Estate, who were excluded from the Estates General, the traditional representative body in France. The Jacobins were known for their radical republican views and their opposition to the monarchy and the aristocracy. They advocated for complete abolition of the monarchy and establishment of a democratic republic. They too believed in the principles of liberty, equality and fraternity and sought to create a more egalitarian society. The Jacobin Club attracted members from various social classes, including lawyers, journalists, intellectuals and artisans. It had a strong presence in Paris and also had branches in other cities and towns throughout France. The Jacobins were known for their powerful oratory skills and their ability to mobilise popular support. They used newspapers and pamphlets to spread their ideas and gain support for their cause. They also organised public demonstrations and rallies to express their political views. The Jacobin Club played a crucial role during the period of the National Convention, the revolutionary government that replaced the Legislative Assembly. Many Jacobin leaders, such as Maximilien Robespierre, Georges Danton and Jean-Paul Marat held prominent positions in the convention. The Jacobins implemented several radical measures and reforms during their time in power. They introduced policies aimed at dismantling the old regime, such as abolition of feudal privileges, the establishment of a system of equal taxation. They also implemented measures to secularize the state and society, such as the adoption of a new republican calendar and the closure of churches. However, the Jacobins' radicalism also led to internal divisions and opposition from other factions within the revolution. They clashed with more moderate factions such as the Girondins and accused them of being too extreme and dictatorial. The Jacobins' influence reached its peak during the Reign of Terror, a period of political repression and violence that aimed to suppress counter-revolutionary activities. The Committee of Public Safety, led by Robespierre, implemented the Reign of Terror and executed thousands of people, including many Girondin leaders. The Jacobin Club power came to a decline over Robespierre's fall from power in July 1794. The club was closed down and many of the members were arrested and executed. The Jacobins were replaced by more moderate factions, and the revolution entered a new phase. The Jacobins' club legacy is complex. They were advocates for republican ideals and played a significant role in the radical phase of the revolution. However, their methods and excesses of the Reign of Terror led to mixed reviews of their legacy. Some view the Jacobins as champions of democracy and social justice at all costs, while others criticise them for their authoritarianism and disregard for individual liberties. Regardless of one's perspective, the Jacobin Club was a powerful force during the French Revolution and left a lasting impact on the course of the revolution and the subsequent history of France.